everyone, and welcome to Chew on Something,
where we chew on something for the taste buds
and the mind.
Thank you so much for joining us for our 11th episode.
Yay!
It's a Halloween special, but only I'm participating.
I put a little eyeshadow on. Put a little purple eyeshadow.
I just put a little silver shadow on. Just a dollop. So happy Halloween.
Yeah, my suit is Can't Be Bothered.
And my outfit is I paid $0 to $5 for my outfit. And anytime I participate in Halloween, if I dress up, I'm the type of person that just finds stuff in my wardrobe to wear. So this is what I had.
I love it.
I'm an alien.
It looks so beautiful.
Thanks, sis.
I love how you did your makeup.
Thank you. All eyeshadow.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it looks great.
Just plastered all on.
I mean, in all fairness, I did order the Star Trek suit.
Which would have been perfect.
Yes.
Because I'm an alien in Star Trek.
But it didn't arrive in time, so.
Okay. Well, you could be like an agent.
Yeah.
You know, Men in Black agent. And I'm an alien. Or a lady in a suit agent.
I mean, I was going to be like, oh, it's like a 70s kind of like Diane Keaton.
That's your
usual wardrobe. But that's what I said. That's like my usual wardrobe. So it's not really
dressing up.
But
Look fabulous.
Thank you, TK. Yeah. So this is a continuation from episode 10, where we discussed about particularly my start within the fashion industry. And I started out as a fashion model. So I was talking about some of the past experiences that I had to deal with. And this was all before social media. So if you haven't checked out part 1, when you have time, go check it out. There was a few things that I had wanted to follow up from that first part. But then we're going to wrap it up because we have our own experiences together within the industry now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I think where I had left off last time was I had talked about some of the ignorant comments that I would give, the stereotypes. As working, actually I was going on a casting and I wound up booking the job. And my agent let me know that I was working for like the next few weeks, but told me that I should stay out of the sun because the client preferred a certain tone, a color tone, because they have this thing called the token model. So you're the token black model, or you're the token Asian model. It's always one of you, but then there's like 5 to 6 other white models. So for me, they didn't want me to be very dark complexioned for the shoot. So they told me to make sure that I stay out of the sun.
That's ridiculous.
Yes.
And this harkens back to our last episode when we were talking about colorism.
Mm-hmm.
And that would be a prime example when we talk about colorism in the industry and how a lot of times when you have talent of color, specifically black talent, it's a certain type of feature or a certain type of skin tone or a certain type of hair texture. And when we talk about diversity, we talk about the full spectrum of representation, especially when it comes to black representation.
Right.
And for a very long time in the industry, it's still like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's more light skin, certain curl texture, certain features are considered closer to the stereotypical antiquated beauty standard, which is aligned with Eurocentric society.
Right. It was well known like years and years ago that, and still now today, as TK pointed out, but the black models that were working, they had attributes or aesthetics that clients wanted because it was more closer to what they considered a European aesthetic, which is insane because black models and models of color come in all color tones, feature tones, hair textures. This ignorant comment of saying, oh, well, we want someone that's more closer to the European aesthetic is mind-boggling when you think about it. And then also too, like another one was like the feature of my nose, which I had mentioned before. A few times people have asked me if who was my plastic surgeon, because they wanted to know where I got my nose done. I was like, well,
I got it from my mama.
Talk to my
the
mama.
genetics of my mom and
Talk
dad.
to my mom and dad. Yeah, because that's where I got it from. Also, as well, I was scouted off the street. One of the agencies I went to, I was told that I had to lose weight. And this was a time when I was very young, so I wasn't into health or nutrition or anything like that. So I wanted to get into the industry because I wanted it. I wanted this kind of money to help pay with school and
Well, you're
just
still
living.
very slender.
I was very slender at that time, but I remember going on a diet. What I was eating every day was just like salads and fruit, and I actually lost a lot more weight than after that. But then, because the way that my body is built, we're tall, so Tika and I are almost 6 foot naturally. But I have hips, you know what I'm saying? Hips, boobs, so the hips never go anywhere. So whenever, I lose weight.
Hips don't lie.
So the hips never go anywhere. And naturally, now, even, at my most fittest, my natural hip is 30 30 and a half, 39 inches. And that's not going anywhere. That's just my bone structure. That's my muscle. It's always been that way. Every time I went and they measured you, it was always like, oh, you're going to have to lose some weight around the hips. And everyone knows that you cannot lose weight around specific parts of your body.
Right.
Like you can't.
Well, the hips, yes, but at a certain point when you're down to, I like to say, fighting weight.
Right.
When you're down to a certain weight, you can't lose anymore.
Right. Yes. You can't. Yes. I mean, you'll naturally lose weight all over, but you can't be like, oh, well, I'm going to lose weight specifically in my hips or specifically in my legs or my arms. You just naturally lose it everywhere. And I remember there was a time where I had to come to a point and be like, well, this is just my natural like hip size. I can't lose anymore.
Right.
And I actually remember hearing stories within some of my own agencies where young women had ribs removed, so they would have like a smaller waistline. Yeah, it is insane about the stories within the fashion industry. And to think about it today, I can't even imagine, a client or a brand telling me to stay out of the sun because they don't want me. And today that would be a totally different story because I'd be like, what are you talking about?
To each his own, y'all. I don't go under the knife unless it's an emergency. No, I'm scared. I don't have a very high tolerance for pain. To each his own, but not me.
Yeah, so dealing with a lot of ignorance within the industry, and especially as a Black model. And the hair for me was another big one, just because I have an Afro-state texture. So I was constantly told I need to straighten my hair, I need to manipulate my curls so it would
look less like Afro
yes,
texture.
it would simulate more of a woolly curl or less Afro
curls.
texture. Yeah, so I was constantly told to change the texture of my hair because it was more commercially appealing for brands and companies.
When I was younger too, I was scouted in the streets of New York, and it didn't last long, my modeling career, because I just didn't enjoy it. I detested it. It wasn't until we started working together after we had built a social media base that I really enjoyed it, because we were implementing all these other different components that we really loved. Talking about diversity and sisterhood and representation, our writing, my music. So it was really enjoyable at the time. But when I was in my early 20s, I did not like modeling. And I had a short stint, but the short stint that I had, I remember specifically it was always about my hair. Clients always had a problem with the texture of my hair. And they always wanted me to straighten it. I refused to. So my duration in modeling was very short. Whenever I was on a shoot, during that time in my early 20s, I would allow stylists to work with my hair, and they had no idea what to do with my hair and completely would damage it. I remember after one shoot, I was devastated because the person had taken a comb, and if y'all know, we only finger detangle. I would never use a comb, but this person was using a comb and they were using it in the incorrect way, which they were trying to comb from the root versus combing from the ends up. And when I looked, my hair was just balls on the floor. And after that, I said I would never let a stylist touch my hair again. That was probably like the last probably the last shoot I had
Mm-hmm.
during that age. But I detested modeling at that time. It wasn't until we started working together after we had garnered some attention in the fashion world after our first New York Fashion Week
Mm-hmm.
when I really started to enjoy it, because at that time we also had a say so on a lot of the ways that we were being represented. You know, during that time, if you're a model, you didn't get much say. So we just say do something, classes do something. Nowadays, when you have more control, so it was much more enjoyable because you're doing things that's within your power, right? So if you had a problem with something, you would tell the client, "Oh, that's not me." Now it's different if you're doing a fashion shoot and they're telling a story. I get that.
Right.
But most of the modeling that we did together, it incorporated something that was authentic to us, which was our sisterhood and our fashion style.
Right.
So I enjoyed that aspect, but we still came across a lot of different roadblocks.
Yes. And I mean, also, too, working now together, it's always a collaboration between the brand or the company. So, collaborations that we're having, it's because they want to work with us beyond the aesthetics as well. So it's something more about what we speak about, what we stand for. And
Right.
when I was in the industry and I started out as a fashion model, I wanted to make that point too, which is what I said in part one, that I detested modeling as well. But then on the flip side, it was providing, which I was very grateful for, was providing a financially stable opportunity for me to make a living. And for me, it was like when we said about doing things that eat your soul. Yes, for me, TK didn't do this because it was like something that she felt was eating her soul, and I felt that way as well too. And it was very courageous that TK had stepped out of it at that time. But for me, it was, something that I felt that I could, I guess, deal with at the time, or was better at pretending at detesting it than you. So, but I remember we had our first shoot. Remember we had our first test shoot? And maybe because I was in dance when I was younger, so maybe I was more like fluid when in the test shoot. So remember they said that you in our first test shoot together, you're more
No,
like stiff.
no, I don't remember that.
You don't remember that? Oh, okay.
Blocked it out. That doesn't sound like me. So.
Like in the eyes. Like remember where they were talking about like the eyes.
I don't remember anything
that-
about what you're talking about.
Oh, okay. Because it was our first test shoot that we had together. Remember
I don't remember.
before we got signed? No.
No.
Oh, okay.
Sticky
You know how you have to have like
Basically, she's saying like I was great, and you were like,
no when
Not
they
that good.
no when they said it was
"Thanks, sis."
no, it just means that they were you. Remember you said you weren't good at pretending and I was. So when you're reading a face and your emotions show through, TK's emotions were showing through her face. So they So I was better at pretending. That's what I'm saying. Okay. Anyway. Yes, it's a completely different story now. Now I quite enjoy it because you're just not this mannequin, which is also fine as well if that's what you're okay with. I have no judgments for women or men that just want to do the straight modeling.
Right.
I think it's a very good career to have. For me, it didn't feel very natural because we like to talk, we like to express ourselves. I'm not saying other models don't do as well,
Right.
but I mean like in all facets of my life. So even kind of containing a bit of who I am in any circumstance feels a little bit like it's tearing my soul out in some way, somehow. I'm sure some people understand what I'm saying.
And I think for those that may be watching, I think one of the number one questions I would always receive, especially when we first started working together in the fashion industry, is how did we get our start? And we got our start without a single contact. We didn't know anyone in the fashion industry. What I always will say is put yourself out there. And by putting yourself out there, I mean put your content out there, because that's how we got attention. Just by consistently working together, shooting together, putting content out. And I always tell people, don't wait. You know, sometimes people want to wait for the perfect, like, oh, I don't have this or I don't have that. Work with what you have and put out the content, right? Because if you're consistently putting out the content, you're getting better and better and better. And the more that you work at it and the more consistent you're at it, the more opportunities that will come your way and the more doors you'll open.
Right, because when I left the modeling industry and I had an honest conversation with my agent, and I just said, look, I'm not happy. And at that point, the money didn't mean anything. I really felt that my soul was deteriorating. I was very unhappy, and I knew the reason why, and it was because of, the industry that I was in. And I think also too, it's also easier for some models to stay within the industry as a fashion model when you're not coming up against many roadblocks and struggles. So I'm talking about specifically Black models and models of color, and also too regarding the pay gap as well regarding race. I had to deal with that a lot as well when I was
running rampant
when I was a model,
and that's running rampant right now.
Very I think he knew that I was reaching to this point where I was just fed up. So when I stopped modeling, I had started working on this website that I had co-founded, and a lot of that was frustrations from being within the industry. So when TK talked about, us not having contacts within the fashion industry and just putting yourself out there, that's what I did when I co-founded this website, which was initially how, Vogue magazine found me, and did this small 24-hour documentary on what I was working on, which was this website, a website that I co-founded and had no contacts within the fashion industry. It was just me working on it every single day. Not one day did I not work on that website. And it was about being consistent and putting it out there. And just really believing in the work that you're putting in.
And when we started working together in the fashion industry, like I said, we didn't have a single contact. And then Vogue did a sister editorial. So they featured us together as sisters. And I would have to say that our first fashion week, that probably happened shortly after our first fashion week. And then we started being featured in a lot of different magazines.
And I was also signed on as a writer to Vogue magazine, which was super exciting for me as well.
And we were on probably all of the best dressed lists. I point that out because we were wearing a lot of thrift store options when we were on these
vintage
best dressed lists. So it wasn't like we were wearing name brand. We weren't wearing any name brand or couture brands when we were on these best dressed lists initially when we started to get attention. That changed, obviously, and we did more like high-low stuff as we went further along in our career in fashion, started working with a lot of different couture brands.
I also remember, too, when we went to a show together and one of the photographers asked what we were wearing, and we said vintage. And he was like, vintage? Vintage? We're like, no, vintage. Yeah. Oh, I never heard that designer.
I was like, thrift.
Yeah.
Thrift.
You thought it was the name of a brand. Yeah. No, it's vintage.
For me, name brands don't equate to style. We have a lot of couture brands that are stunning and beautiful, a lot of name brand clothing that's beautiful. But I always said that doesn't equate to having style and fashion. So when we were just entering the fashion industry together, we were wearing vintage and thrift store selects because I had always had this belief at a very young age that how you wear clothing makes your style, not specifically what you wear. But I really enjoyed working with Brianna because we get along. Obviously, we're business partners, but we have a great sisterhood and a great working relationship together as well. It's great to be with one another when we had sort of tumultuous times working together in the industry. And I would say a lot of it had to revolve around pay, fighting to get paid when there were white creators that were getting paid 10 times the amount we were being paid, or just being offered a rate and we weren't being offered a rate, or we were being lowballed constantly. Um, I remember one time we were on this shoot together, and this director, we were doing a commercial, he was quite touchy. And anytime he had a direction, which was, he had a lot of directions, he put his hands on my back, my lower back, like guiding me on my arms. I was like, look. And at one point I said, oh, you can just tell me the directions. You don't have to touch me. Like, I'm comfortable with that. And then his whole demeanor had changed where you could tell that he was annoyed, but he didn't act like enraged or anything, but his whole demeanor had completely changed. And it was sort of like this annoyance that, oh, she had the nerve to tell me, like, she had the nerve to direct me and tell me that, like, yeah, mofo, I'm going to direct you. Don't put your hands on me. That's my direction for you, director.
I actually had to deal with a lot of that when I was modeling as well. With a lot of the touching and moving the body. And that was one thing I was very adamant about.
Right.
I would be like, you can just tell me where you need me to move. You don't have to literally move me or push me in the direction. People would treat you like this inanimate object. Yeah. And I'd be like, no, you can just tell me where to move.
Yeah, I'm a fabulous listener. I take direction very well.
Yes.
Yeah, just verbally, it's wonderful.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I had to deal with a lot of that. And also, I know that we touched upon the last one as far as delinquent payment. That's huge right now. There's always been an egregious problem in the industry. It still is, so much so that we're still dealing with it currently. And also your contracts going against certain language that you shouldn't have to be dealing with as talent.
I mean, that's something that we could go into after the food break.
Yeah, I'll just say it. One word, perpetuity.
Yes.
Run. Yeah, I'll go on a rant if we start in perpetuity. So
yeah, so that would actually be a good segue into after the food break, right. Because I have wanted to mention that too about contractual language as well, and what you should look out for to protect yourself.
And perpetuity, y'all.
Yes,
you see it. Run.
Scratch it out, delete it, edit it, red cross it, line it, do whatever you need to do. Make sure it's not in the
eradicate it. Eradicate it.
Burn it. Do whatever you need to do.
Okay, cool. So I guess, yes, like you said, it's a good time to jump into a food break.
See you soon.
I'm ready to eat. What do we have?
I had to take my blazer off. It was getting hot. I had to turn the oven on. I had to cook on the stove. This is a longer meal prep for this one, even though the ingredients are really simple. So, what we have, we did a take on a pizza style. So I did, what do we call it? You said we were down with
mushroom pizza taco.
Yes. You down with MPT? Yeah, you know me. Okay. So a mushroom pizza taco. So I used a garlic naan bread. And you can use any base of your preference. I also love a cauliflower crust, which is really good if you're not eating gluten.
Na 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 na. Hey, 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 goodbye.
Or hello, 'cause you're gonna be in my tummy.
Okay.
Okay. So I used a garlic naan bread.
Mhm.
And what I did is I prepped the bread first. So I put a little bit of olive oil, or you can also use butter of your choice, just a very little bit to kind of spread over the naan bread. And then I put vegan Parmesan cheese and then a little bit of goat cheese. And the goat cheese I chose was a garlic goat cheese as well, because it pairs really well because the naan bread is garlic as well.
Okay.
So you put
I
a little
love
bit
goat
of,
cheese.
and it's really good. I've mentioned this before about like goat cheese and feta cheese are like the healthiest out of all the cheeses that you can eat.
Nerd alert, nerd alert, nerd alert.
So you prep it with a little bit of olive oil, then you put your vegan Parmesan cheese or just regular Parmesan cheese, then a little bit of goat cheese, garlic goat cheese. And then also what I do is I cut up tomatoes. And you can also, if you want to save on time, you can buy prep cut tomatoes or tomatoes. They have sauteed cut tomatoes in a can.
Okay.
And so what you do is you just put chunks of the tomato on top of the cheese. And then I take a little bit of honey and drizzle it on. And this is all prep work before I put it in the oven.
Okay.
So that's probably like the longest take of this meal, besides the mushrooms that are going to go on top of it as well. So once I do is I put the oven on 400 and I leave it in for about 15 to 20 minutes, depending on how crispy you like it.
The naan.
Your naan, your cheese. I like the cheese a little bit brown, crispy. So it just depends on your preference. Leave that in the oven for about 15, 20 minutes on 400 or 350 if you want to cook it a little bit slower, which is also nice as well. You leave that in for 15, 20 minutes, and then you saute your mushrooms. So I use portobello mushrooms, already pre-sliced. And I put them in the pan with a little bit of olive oil, or you can use butter. Butter is actually pretty tasty when you're grilling mushrooms. So my preference, I would like to use butter, but I just use a little bit of olive oil.
And mushrooms are a great substitute for meat.
Yeah.
Because they have that meaty consistency texture to it.
Yes, which is the reason why I use mushrooms for this to replace like a pepperoni or something like that, or a sausage. So I used portobello mushrooms, and portobello mushrooms, when you grill them, they do have a consistency to taste like meat. So what I do is I put that in the pan, and I put it on about a little over medium heat, and I grill the mushrooms until they're golden brown. And
living your life like it's golden. Mushrooms living their best life.
So you grill them until they're golden brown, and people have a preference to what they prefer their, mushrooms grilled to. I like them crispy. I like mushrooms in all states. Like I could eat this raw in a salad and I still think it tastes delicious. But just for the pizza preference, I prefer them grilled. And like I said, you can use olive oil or butter.
Okay.
I think butter is more tastier, but grill it brown. And then once you have that like kind of golden brown, a little bit crispy, then you leave that on the side. And now your pizza should be done. So you take that out of the oven, and then you prep the pizza with your guacamole. And for guacamole, I just use avocados, obviously, smash them up. I use a little bit of salt, a little bit of lemon, a little bit of lime, red onions, and cilantro, and a little bit of black pepper. And I mash all that together, and then once you're done with your guacamole, then you put it in chunks on top of the pizza, sporadically over the pizza.
Little dollops everywhere. Little dollops of guac.
So then once you do that, then you take your mushrooms that you have on the side, and then you place them on top of the chunks of guacamole that you have on the pizza sporadically, because the guacamole holds the mushrooms really well. Without it, the mushrooms would be sliding all over the place, falling off your pizza. And then you're done. I also use a little bit of pepper as well, chili pepper. which paired nicely with the honey that I drizzled over.
Right.
And I think that's about it.
Cool. We can eat.
Yes, TK's
I'm
been,
hangry.
as you can see, she's been, okay,
There's been this prepared pizza down here the entire time.
So once it's done, then it pairs off. Looks pretty much like this. Really easy to make. And you can also make extra for tomorrow. Oh, okay. We're tasting it. That's pretty good. I have to say so.
That was great. You get that. It's delicious.
It's delicious, right? You can taste a little bit of honey.
It's fabulous.
Yeah, you think like honey when it pair nicely with, I think like with all, because it sounds kind of strange to.
Not really, because
I mean,
you
not
have
for us.
honey mustard and stuff, like honey.
Yeah,
I eat it with.
Yeah, I know, but I like anytime I feel like if I say like you drizzle a little bit of honey like on garlic naan bread and like go, I don't know.
But
I guess
there's pizzas that have honey.
no, I know they do, but for people that don't eat honey with their pizza, it's a really good pairing. Like you think it might sound strange,
Right.
but it's a really
delicious.
good pairing. Yeah.
This is really good, sis.
Thank you.
Spectacular.
Thank you. Did I get the this time?
You sure do. But we gotta shoot B-roll, or else I'd be eating more of this right now.
TK's,
I'm hangry.
TK's hangry. She's
Hangry,
done.
y'all. Sorry, guys. My feet hurt, or I'm hungry. It's a whole new TK. A lady want to eat.
She's always lovable, but even when she's hangry.
Yeah.
But I definitely notice the difference in her mood when she's hungry.
I'm hungry.
Yeah. We gotta get those aliens some food.
He wants to eat. Feed me. I come in peace. Won't you feed me?
If you don't,
Yeah. Like a gremlin. Don't feed me. I turn into a whole beast. That's delicious. Thanks so much,
Oh,
sis.
you're welcome. Oh, I forgot to also mention that I put cilantro in my guacamole as well.
Oh, really?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, I love fresh
tiny bit.
guacamole. I love basil on pizza, but it tastes really good. So we can throw this on after.
Okay. Let's get this B-roll.
Okay.
I can eat.
That's it.
Yeah. We'll see.
Mushroom pizza taco.
We'll see you soon.
And we'll see you soon. Okay.
That mushroom pizza taco was delicious. You know how to make a good pizza. I give you that. I mean, everything you make is good, but I love your pizzas.
Oh, thank you,
They're
sis.
so good.
Yeah, it's like quick versions of making. I mean, it takes much longer if you're making your own dough. So you use like a already pre-made cauliflower crust or naan bread or pita bread. It's good to make individual sizes.
Yeah, they're great.
Yeah. Thank you, sis.
You need a theme song.
Well,
Don't know what you know about me. I'm a mother MPT.
or or because it's we said mushroom taco pizza. Or
Yeah.
mushroom pizza,
Pizza
taco.
taco.
So MPT, mushroom pizza taco. You done with MPT? Yeah, you know me. Okay, all right.
It's better. I needed one more letter to make my song better. Okay. I like that.
You like that?
Yeah.
Good.
Maybe
You done
I'm-
with MPT? Yeah, you know me.
Yeah. It's delicious.
Thank you, sis.
And I can't wait for the second part to be over so I can start eating. All right, so I guess we're going to jump into contractual stuff.
Yes.
some just tips and advice we have for people entering the business, because when you're just entering it, you're trying to make money. You don't have money to pay for a lawyer to look over contractual stuff, and this is what a lot of brands and clients may be banking on. And I'm not saying that all brands are trying to be shady, because generally what they do is they'll just have a standard contract and they use it for everything. They don't tailor it for a specific job, which is what should be done. They just use a contract that it has a wide scope and it tackles everything. So like usage, how long they can use your image and likeness for, what they can use it for. These are all things that you need to pay attention to the contract.
So legally, all that language within the contract, as DK said, is not catered for the individual. That's such a great point. It's not. So don't take offense.
Or cater to the job, right? So don't take don't think like, oh, they trying to take advantage. They trying to look. Some cases they are.
Some they are.
Some they are.
Some
but
they are.
I would say that most of the time when you see this type of contracts, they just use it for everything. So it's up to you as talent to say, hey, I'm cool with this. No, I'm cool. Not cool with this. Remove this. So this is things that we had to learn ourselves. And we've been taught from a very young age, always read everything. Have been on set. They want to roll the contract out and say, oh, can you sign this? And I said, hold up. Hold up. Hold up. Hey. Hold up. I would say, oh, I don't sign anything on set. I always have to send it to my manager. So my manager needs to look it over. Even if you don't have a manager, create an email where you're your own manager, right? Because then you can have your manager be the one that say, hey, I don't want to sign this. I don't want to do that. But either way, you should never sign a contract on set. These are rare instances, right? We worked for an agency at the time.
I had that more happen when I was modeling.
Yes,
I had
that's what I was
happen
gonna say,
a lot when I was
agency.
modeling. And I would always be like, I can't sign anything. You have to send it over to my agent.
Right.
So that was sneaky, because a lot of the brands and clients I worked with when I was working as a fashion model knew that. So that, for me, was very offhanded that they would do that.
Right.
But now together as us working,
especially in the creator space, that's a rarity, because you always solidify contracts before you even begin the job, which is what you should do
every time.
But just pay attention to the language. The big one is the in perpetuity. When you see that, to me, it's always a red flag when I see that, because that means that they can use. Look, they might be offering. Let's say they offer you $3,000 to do a job or shoot, and they're saying that further along in that agreement they'll say, we can use your image and likeness, we can use it for advertising, we can use it for native advertising, we can use it for ads,
or maybe we should say $3,000 for social media work, because I haven't done a shoot for $3,000 in a long time. And I'm not saying that to brag, it just means I've done a lot of years and years of work not to be paid $3,000 to do a shoot. So maybe we should say
Naomi said she didn't wake up for less than 10,000 or something.
Who was that? Naomi Campbell said that, didn't she?
Yeah, a long time ago. Yeah. I think she said something like that.
I mean, now, especially as a black woman, I get what she was saying, because a lot of
know your worth.
Know your worth, and a lot of her white counterparts were getting paid that plus triple.
Yeah, tenfold.
Yes.
Right? So, yes. But I'm talking about people just the industry. So you might get a rate of $3,000 to do a shoot, and they give you a contract. Pay attention to the language, because if it says in perpetuity, you should never sign a contract for $3,000 for them to use your image and likeness forever, because that's what it means. They can use it forever. What happens if further down the line in your career, you get a bigger name, and what they say, yesterday's price is not today's price. So you're further along in your career, your name becomes bigger, and you would never be like, oh, I'm going to charge the same price I did as someone that wasn't known when I first came in, to now someone that's garnered some attention or now has some influence, right?
I think that happened with a well-known celebrity. Oh, they did a commercial overseas, but they did it when they were really young.
Oh, really?
And then their image popped up 10 years later, but then they can't do anything about it, because it was probably in that contract where they could use it for whenever, wherever, however they wanted to.
So a lot of times brands will bank on you not paying attention to that because they know talent needs money.
Mm-hmm.
But it's up to you to be like, hey, I can agree to this. For instance, I get $3,000. I can agree for you to use my usage and my image and likeness for a month or 2 months, but not a year because that's not worth $3,000 to use your image and likeness for a year. But at the same time, too, talent would be like, look, I need the money. Never sign the contract as is if it's saying in perpetuity.
I mean, even 3,000, that's on the low end.
No, but for someone that doesn't, it's not a big name. If they're coming and they're doing a shoot and it's for $3,000.
Well, how many hours?
Okay, so when we first entered the industry, we were getting very good money. But I'm saying that's not the case for a lot of young talent.
Yeah, I know, but I was just saying, like, you know.
Okay, this is just a hypothetical, sis. Like,
Okay, I was just like, maybe we should bump it up a bit. Maybe like, 5,000 you're just starting.
yes, but $3,000 is still good money for if they're doing like a 2-hour shoot.
Yeah, that's what you said. I said
$3,000.
put in the hours on it.
I know,
because
but I'm not gonna
usually
do-
for 3 hours
It's just
for like an
hypothetical.
8 to 10 hour day. That's
Yes, this
not,
is hypothetical.
Yes.
This is for beginners.
Yeah, okay, but yeah, like $3,000 for 2 hours. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, if you see in perpetuity in the contract, it shouldn't be in there. And you can bring this up. Don't be afraid to negotiate. A lot of times, brands will be willing to negotiate with you, especially when they want to work with you. I think a lot of times young talent will think, oh, well, I might lose out on the job if I say I don't want to do this in the contract. That's not the case. I'll tell you 9 times out of 10, when we had language taken out, the client was fine. They said, okay. They didn't make a big fuss. They just knew it's up to the talent to call out these things.
Right.
And to tell the brand, like, hey, I don't want to, I won't do this, but I'll do this. And they're usually very agreeable.
And I think another key word to also look at for contractually wise is non-native advertising. And a lot of times, if you're looking at a contract, you may not know what that means, but a lot
Native
of times,
advertising.
yes, native advertising. So when I make changes or TK makes changes, we're working on a project together, we're making changes, and our manager is going over and we go over the contracts with our manager as well, because even though we're talent, we still want to know all the ins and outs of our business. So we'll go over the contract together with our manager,
Right.
which I think is smart for talent to do,
Because you should be aware as yourself.
right, you should know the ins and outs of all aspects of your business. So when we're going over the contracts and you see this, the requests that we'll make, depending on how large the budget is, and if they don't have a budget to compensate for native advertising, we'll say this fee is exclusive of native advertising. So I'll be like, this fee is non-native advertising. So if you agree upon a fee or they have a certain budget, you can agree to whether you want to include native advertising or you want to take it out.
Right.
And native advertising can be anything from, emails, it can be ads, it can be billboards, it could be commercials, it could be anything with your image or likeness. So you want to really look out for native advertising, and if they can use native advertising for your image and likeness, then you have to agree on the budget. And if they don't have the budget that you feel is comfortable enough to use your image and likeness, then you have to say, well, I can do it specifically for social media, but not for native advertising, or
and
put in what you could do. You could be like, I could do social media, or I could do the website.
Right. Commercial usage is a big one as well. Pay attention. This is language that you have to pay attention. And when you sign the contract, make sure you read the whole thing. I mean, this is not the time to peruse or skip words or sections in the agreement.
Your contract is not a cliff note, y'all.
Yeah.
Not a cliff note.
Don't skip.
Don't skim it.
Don't skim it.
Don't skim it.
Yeah. No cliff notes. Exactly. Not the time to peruse. Take your time. Read the contract, because a lot of times you won't have a legal advice, but there will be things, and there are things that you can teach yourself simply by researching online and Googling.
If you don't understand something, look it up.
Yeah, I mean, all the language that they use that could be quite confusing. We're well adept at reading contracts now, and we've always been. I mean, look, to be honest, we had a very sort of I think, unique in childhood, besides dealing with a lot of violence. Our father was always suing somebody, you know? He was always suing somebody. And who was writing the contract, writing the letters to the lawyers? We were. I was always typing my dad's letters, writing them. He wasn't telling me what to say. He would just give me general consensus, like his enraged thoughts, and then I would put them down
As you were processing it.
very eloquently. And
Legally insane.
Yeah, so this is me at 10 years old, like sitting at the typewriter, listening to my father rant about something he was suing someone on, and I'd be like, mm-hmm.
He was like, this motherfucker. And TK would be like, dear Mr. Or
Yes.
to whom this may concern. And our dad be in the background like, this motherfucker.
I am very displeased.
You gonna have my foot in his ass. If you do not respond in a timely manner,
we will take further action. So I was always
gonna get a cap in his ass.
Yeah. I was always transcribing for my father, but I was always writing letters to lawyers and constantly. So it was incessant. But at a very young age, we were always told to read everything. Never sign anything before you read it. I would go to events and, they try to get you to sign. Sometimes they'll get you, if it's like they're filming an event and they want you to sign something. Have you ever been to those type of events?
Mm-mm.
Like I went to some big name brand car event and they had a contract trying to say like, oh, we're filming, so you agreed your image and likeness can be used. I was like, oh no, I can't sign this. So I'm in the entertainment industry, I can't sign this. And they said, oh, it's just so and so. I was like, no, I can't sign it. Like, oh, okay. And they would let me in because you can't force somebody to sign. A lot of times, if it's an event, they should let people know in advance because you can't just have people pop onto the event and they'll be like, oh, here's the contract. Sign away your image and likeness, and we can do whatever we want with it.
Well, a lot of people do.
Yeah, I know my worth, so everyone should know their worth, and nobody should be signing.
But and that's also such like a taking advantage of the situation because a lot of people that go to an event, if you're not in the industry, that wouldn't even come to your mind to think that you would have to sign something and that within that legal paper you're basically signing away for your image and likeness for them to use whatever they want to do with it for free forever.
For free.
That's such a horrendous, I think, thing to do to put anyone in that kind of position.
Yes. Come on.
Yeah, I never had that happen. Maybe one.
That happened a few times.
Yeah, no.
I said no. No, sir. No, ma'am. I will take my butt home. I'll have a cocktail myself, and I make good cocktails, so make my own food. Put some Netflix on. I don't care. Think I want to get an event that bad? Yeah. But yes, when you look at contracts, please make sure that you read the whole thing and pay attention to it. Usage is a big one. So if you're doing a job and they don't have the funds to pay you for a year and a half, 2-year usage, then you limit the usage.
Right.
You say, hey, I'll give you a month for free. Anything beyond that, you have to pay a fee. Right. Or if it's a larger fee that you can pay, you can be like, hey, I'll do 6 months usage. That's all contingent upon how much you're being paid, honestly.
And also look out for exclusivity as well.
Oh, yes.
That's a big one. You also want to make sure that if there's exclusivity within the contract, that they're paying you, because exclusivity means that you're going to be out of work and your content is just dedicated solely to that brand or that client. So if they want you to be exclusive, then they're going to have to pay you for your time out of work with other brands and other clients.
Opportunities that you get. We ran across this a lot. So a lot of times brands will want you to be exclusive. So if you're working with a lingerie company or a makeup brand, they'll be like, you can't work with another makeup brand or another lingerie company. They want you to be exclusive. So if they want you to be exclusive, then they should be paying for the months they want you to be exclusive, because you could potentially have another offer from a lingerie company or a makeup brand. And if they come and say, it could even be a better one than you're currently with this exclusive brand with, you want to be like, okay, I agree to be exclusive with you, but they have to have an exclusivity fee. They have to have an exclusivity budget. Because if another brand comes, it's like, hey, I'm going to pay you this much amount, and it could be a lot more than what you're currently contractually obligated with another brand. So you can't work with them because you said, hey, I'm exclusive. And they didn't even pay you for the exclusivity. So just be on the lookout for that. That's a big one too.
Yes, that's a big one. And a lot of times brands and clients understand, and you'll be like, look, I can't do this amount of exclusivity, but I could do maybe 1 week before or 1 week after exclusivity. And that's something that a lot of brands and clients will work with. It's all about being vocal, communicating, and as TK said, making sure you read that contract top to bottom, and then bottom to top, then middle, top, bottom, then bottom, middle, top. Go over it multiple times because I know sometimes I've missed things after reading it one time fully. I'll be like, right. We look
Which
at
is
it
why it's
with
great
each
that
other.
we're a team,
Yes.
because we, besides having a manager look over agreements, we always look over our paperwork, always, ourselves. We don't just rely on someone else to look at it. Obviously, the manager will handle the paperwork and negotiations, but we still always look at the paperwork regardless.
But that's another thing that I didn't like about being a model with the agency.
Yeah.
I never saw, because what happens is that when you sign with the agency, you give them the legal right to sign your contracts. So they'll come to you and be like, oh, a brand wants to work with you or a client wants to work with you, and you're getting paid this amount of the budget. And also, I just went off on a tangent because I was like, when you work with the agency, they take 20%, but actually it's 40% of what they take from you, because the agency itself takes 20% and then the agent takes 20%. The client comes to the agency, they're like, look, we want to work with this woman, we want to work with this man, we want to work with whoever. We have this amount of budget to work with this person. This is a budget we have. So what they'll do is they'll slash that budget almost in half. They take 40%, and then you get the rest.
Yeah.
So we need to change that whole conversation about like, oh, you only get 20%. No, it's 40% that's taken out. This is the standard across the board.
Right, but you
for
have a lot of
all the top agencies.
Right, but like you said, there's
But then you have
some
specifics.
top tier
Yes.
talent
Some top tier talent
that doesn't
yes.
have those fees.
Yes, they'll be like, oh look, like
The
I don't want to
agent-
pay the agency fee.
The agent will get 10%, and then that's all they'll get.
Or they'll be like, I don't want to pay the agency fee. I'll give the agent 20%,
Right,
but I'm
that's what
not
I'm
giving
saying.
an
They-
extra 20%.
Right,
Yes.
and sometimes not even 20%.
Yeah.
It could be 10%, but yeah, the agency doesn't get a fee. It's just the agent that gets a fee from the top tier. But that was just one of the few grievances I had working with modeling agencies, besides the egregious payment. When you were talking about how the agents always look over the contracts and the talent doesn't look at the contracts.
Yes.
We had a clause in our contract said if it was over a certain amount that we would look at the contracts.
Right. But they still didn't send the contracts, did they?
No, I mean we had a lot of problems with big agencies.
That's why it's important that you work in a way within your industry that's comfortable for you. And I know for TK and I, it was about finding what was comfortable with us, because for TK and I, we feel very comfortable knowing all aspects of the business that we're working with. So we want to know.
Yeah.
We want to know about like the contractual. We want to know about accounting. We want to know about production. We want to know about editing. We want to know about all aspects of the industry that we're in. And the contractual part is a very big one for us, and a very important one because it's dealing with your finances.
Right. And I think that as we close this show out, it'd be great to do an episode where we specifically talk about our experience working with modeling agencies, because I have quite a lot to say about our experience working with modeling agencies.
I do too. Of course, like anything in life, when you have the right agent or you have the right agency and they're fully behind you,
Right.
meaning that they're comfortable with what you're comfortable with, it's a compromise. It's not like, oh, we do things this way, so
Yeah, it's not
anything outside of that, of what we do, and you're not down with it, then it's not going to work. Like there has to be a give and take in any relationship. I don't care what it is.
And
So
they're not treated like cattle.
Right.
You know?
yeah,
A lot of these agencies have so much talent, and it's just about shoveling as much money as they can get and not paying attention to the talent or their concerns.
right. So I think that if you have an agency or an agent and they're working for you and you're happy, then that's a different conversation. And that's wonderful that you have that kind of support. But on the flip side of that, there's this other discussion that needs to be talked about because
That's not
many
talked
circumstances,
about.
it's not that way.
Right.
And exactly what we're talking about. It's not discussed. So
Right.
I feel like there needs to be a more open dialogue about that side as well.
And how we were treated working in agencies specifically as to Black women. Very interesting. But since I don't want to go into another long rant because I got a lot to say on that topic.
Yes.
Probably a good time to wrap it up, right?
Yeah, we'll wrap it up. And that's definitely going to be an interesting discussion. But, it's like all learned lessons and, reaching a medium where I feel, very comfortable where we're at business wise.
Right.
And all learning lessons and what you feel comfortable with. Some people are very happy with having, an agent, an agency, because they're really supportive.
Right.
But
Yeah, depends on the
sometimes-
agent you get and the agency itself.
Yeah.
But we dealt with a lot of things that talent shouldn't deal with. A lot. A lot.
And handled it very professional because I
Yep.
know a lot of people would not have handled it in the way that
And
we
they would have
handled it.
they would have had every right to react that way.
because our circumstances were horrendous.
They sure were. They sure were. And we kept the be more tapered down.
We sure did.
Yep. She wanted to come out, y'all.
She did.
Be more side wanted to come out real bad. Be more side want to come out real bad right now. I'm dealing with something right now. Yeah. If I don't get my money soon, I'm gonna talk about that.
Hey, why not?
For real.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
I still can't believe it.
Yep. Still waiting on money. Okay. Put me in a bad mood. I got some pizza to eat.
Rise above.
Yeah.
Rise above. Keep shining.
I'm trying. I'm shining, literally.
All right, well, we hope everyone, enjoys their Halloween.
Yeah, have a happy Halloween.
Because Halloween's tomorrow.
Yes, it's
The
tomorrow.
31st.
Or if you don't celebrate it, that's all good too. Like
I'll
I
be
said,
inside watching scary movies.
yeah, that's my favorite part.
Eating
just saying-
something delicious.
Yeah, eating something delicious and watching scary stuff.
movie.
I
Yeah.
love scary movies.
Me too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, be
you know,
careful out there, y'all, because
Yeah.
people get crazy on Halloween.
They sure do.
And especially intoxicated.
Yeah.
You be looking all cute, just trying to live your best Halloween life, and somebody be coming all up in your face.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just be careful, y'all.
Yeah. Be careful.
That's-
Those inebriated fools.
Yes.
They out there. Plenty. So, thank you so much for joining us.
On
Chew
something.
Chew on something.